Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, for the last generation, they didn't have a choice.
RavenMorshow.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations with
I realize that this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, Cleveland, welcome to another edition of Backfire this morning. Hey, we've got a special guest with us this morning.
Good morning, Steve.
How are you?
I'm good.
My mind just went blank. Here I am.
Richard
Burnett. I'm sorry, I sat there. Richard, I've known you a long time. My mind just went blank. Franklin Chansey also is in the studio. Richard Burnett is the chairman of the local Republican Party, right?
That's correct. That's right.
And you just returned from Nashville, been on a big trip over to Nashville. What have you been doing over in Nashville?
Well, we went over with Leadership Cleveland from the Chamber of Commerce and observed our state government working at its finest, I should say, with a little sarcasm.
Was it a lot like making sausage? Is that?
That's probably a great definition of it. I saw a lot of things that probably should be made into something, but not much going on. Politics as usual.
Well, Haslam, I just saw where he appropriated $30 million for school safety.
I was in the budget meeting yesterday and heard some of that. A lot of it will go to SROs and training and hopefully some ideas. There were even such things as bulletproof glass where it's even discussed, but they said the cost of that for every school across the state would be astronomical, so that got kicked away pretty quick. So,
what did they talk about? Did they talk about the teachers carrying guns?
That was brought up evidently later on. I saw on the headlines of the paper this morning that the House bill to arm teachers clears the first hurdle. So I thought that was interesting. I really didn't think that would get that much traction.
Well, you know those first grade and second grade teachers don't want to carry a gun.
I was married to a second grade teacher, and I can assure you she does not want to carry a gun, and I love my wife dearly, but I sure don't want her carrying a gun in the schoolhouse. So
I've got a lot of friends that like to hunt and so forth.
Yes.
A couple of them are retired school teachers, and they said they wouldn't have a problem at all.
I think if you have a teacher with the proper training and background, I know there's some folks in the school system that have been former officers and military people. I would have no problem with background checks on them and training, having that part of it if it so happens. But as far as just arming every teacher, handing them a gun, no, I hope not. I hope that doesn't happen.
Good morning, Franklin.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
What do you think about arming the teachers?
I'd really like to see what the training and background requirements are for the teachers who are going to be armed. I know lots of teachers who are wonderful educators and are great influences on our children that I don't think would be very good in a crisis situation.
You don't have to think about arming very many of them. If you just had just 2 or 3 armed in a school, nobody'd know where they are. Yeah. What do you think about the bomber this morning? They say if you just woken up or something, the bomber is dead in Austin. He blew himself up while the police were moving in on him.
Yeah. I heard a SWAT team sniper shot him as the bomb exploded, and now that's all that I heard early this morning. I think you said, Steve, 24 years old?
I heard they said he was 24 years old. They're not giving out any other information, but that he was 24 years old. He was staying in a motel.
Yes.
And somehow they'd traced him down to this motel.
Well, I'm glad they got him.
He's got, what causes that kind of sickness? I mean, really, there's something in this world causing this type of sickness.
Yeah, it's a sad state when that's the way they look to seek publicity and fame, is to kill their fellow Americans or Texans in this case. And it's a sad state. It really is. I don't know what goes through someone's mind that would make them want to blow up innocent people.
It's got to be, I don't know what it is. Is it the videos? Is it just lack of attention, lack of parroting?
I suspect that with the rise of the internet, there are people who can always find encouragement for the bad ideas that go through their head. And that has contributed more than anything.
I bet you when it comes down to it, they'll find out this guy learned everything from the internet.
I wonder if that's how they trace some of the things back there.
And that's entirely possible. Yeah. I mean, you can go on the internet and find how to make a bomb. That's not that.
Do you think things ought to be limited that are on the internet?
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Not in our society.
Well, it's starting to be an issue now. They're what is it? Facebook. They got heat on Facebook right now for.
Sure.
What is it they're trying to point out there? They're trying to say that Facebook is giving out information.
They're gathering tremendous amounts of data on us. Every time you look at a website through Facebook or read an article through it, Facebook is gathering that information. And they're, in this case, made it available to other people. And they're able to use that to influence us. It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You know, the easy way to look at it is if you've ever looked up buying a Chevy or something like that on the internet, for the next 2 weeks you're getting ads from Chevy.
Oh.
Right? Well, only they're doing that with political views and news that you get, and you're being targeted with news that they think reinforces or pushes you in a direction in the case. And that's the scary part. It's one thing if we're just talking about selling a product.
I think there's when it comes in there and says, do you think Donald Trump's doing a good job? Would you vote for Hillary Clinton? Some of these type of things that come out, I think all this stuff is
well, but what happens is if you answer a survey like that, next thing you know, you're getting information and stories that are pushing you in that direction. All right. So if you said, would you do you think Hillary Clinton's a bad person? Okay, maybe you do. All right. But next thing you know, you're getting all these terrible, in some cases fake, sometimes true, news articles being pushed at you that are reinforcing those views and pushing you in that direction. Same thing with Mr. Trump. Works in the opposite direction, but it's really kind of scary that people's opinions are getting molded that way.
I want to change the subject a minute. What do you think about Hillary's comments recently about the white wives and so forth?
The women voters that voted for Donald Trump because their husbands wanted them to. And
influenced by their husbands. That's what cost her the election.
Please let her keep saying things like that, and because all that does is make this right here really strong.
Is she sick or what?
Maybe the answer's bitter. I don't know.
Bitter?
I don't know. That's certainly been one of her problems, is that she has had a tendency to, put it kindly, be tone deaf. And that's what that was.
I think that's a great thing for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump. The more things that come out like that, the more Maxine Waters stories, the more Elizabeth Warren stories, the better he's looking every day.
What's that preacher, or I guess he's a preacher that's so radical that Obama was
right. Something right. And Jeremiah Wright.
Jeremiah Wright.
Yes.
And Maxine Waters, and they're all getting there. There's a bunch of the Democrats that have sided up with that preacher. Am I right?
No idea what you're talking about.
I don't know, Steve. That may be
politically.
Interestingly enough, since President Obama left office, I haven't seen one story about Jeremiah Wright. I wonder why.
Yeah, I was going to say very few. That was one of the things that always concerned me. You didn't see a whole lot of those stories during that. It was very much toned down. You didn't get to hear that. And may I do something in honor of John, since John's not here? Franklin, you're wrong. You don't know anything. MSNBC stinks. Hillary stinks. Benghazi and Obamacare. Okay. You feel better now?
You left Texas out.
Oh, I'm sorry, Texas.
But now I feel good. That was actually pretty good. I was impressed by that.
Hey, what do you think about Trump getting ready to announce another tax incentive break?
I think it's the first one he did, or he pushed through, is help the economy tremendously. I don't think there's any question about that. When you see jobs coming back to the country, unemployment at all-time low, bonuses, wage increases. I'm in the banking industry, and a lot of the Tennessee banks are starting their part-time help off at $15 an hour, which is a good thing. I think that's a plus.
I'm glad that you mentioned you were in the banking industry. Explain to Franklin how much bureaucracy was added to the banking industry through Obama's rules and regulations that was put in place.
Dodd-Frank had one of the worst effects on small community banks of anything ever, and that's a proven fact. All you have to do is look at the number of banks in the country, not just in our state, that were gobbled up by the bigger banks because they couldn't afford the regulations and the fees that were put on the small banks. They were charged basically the same type of fees that the large and the larger banks that could afford those. I think that's why you have seen so many mergers, so many buyouts, and so on in the banking industry. I mean, we have experienced it right here in Cleveland. We've seen a lot of our banks, merged and bought and sold,
But it put a lot of just unnecessary. You had to hire extra employees just to take care of it, right?
That's correct, and extra systems, and plus the fees were the huge thing that you were all of a sudden being levied against you by the banking regulations. You paid additional fees, and obviously that hurts the consumer because that has to be passed on. If you're buying a house or a car or things like that, you put your savings accounts in there, they're going to pay lower interest rates. So there were a lot of regulations that hurt small town consumer community banks.
For the purposes of this discussion, let me say, let's assume that everything that Richard just said is correct. Okay.
Well, I assume it is.
Now, so okay. But
I would assume that it was.
Well, that's fine. Okay. But now, answer this for me. Why would we lift all those regulations on the mega banks instead of just providing relief for small banks, which is what we just did? We took off all the restrictions that we had put in place because of the financial crisis the big banks caused.
I don't think there was anything that was benefiting the financial crisis much, was it?
The only thing that I saw were a lot of extra regulations put on the small.
You don't think the extra capital requirements for the banks was a good thing?
I do think the extra capital. Okay. However, it was on all banks as well. I don't have a problem with the capital.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. My question is, why did we lift all the restrictions from the big banks who put us in the mess, as opposed to just creating relief for the small banks who needed it?
What restrictions were lifted on the big banks? Only
the relief you just talked about. They gave all the same relief that you're just talking about that smaller hometown banks needed, okay? They gave them to the big banks. Why is that?
What you're missing? I think I'm missing.
Why did they ever put them on there?
Yeah.
Because they had been unable to police themselves and put us in the housing crisis mess that almost tore down our economy completely.
What do you think put us in the housing mess?
Freddie and Fannie.
Freddie and Fannie, right?
Okay.
Who created that?
Still making the loans.
Yeah,
but no. They tore down the barriers between the investment side and the banking side of the big banks, right? So they were able to bundle all of these bad mortgages that they were writing, all right? When you had big banks leading the way, making loans to people at 110% of value of their loans and letting them finance the closing costs too. The smaller banks, most of them anyway, had to go along or they were going to be out of business because all the business would have gone to the big banks. So why do you benefit those guys who did everything wrong and caused the problems just to help the smaller ones? Why didn't we just help the smaller ones?
We did.
And the answer is nothing would have been done to help the smaller banks if it hadn't been for the benefit to the big ones. And that's the dirty little secret in it.
So the big banks are our problems?
They certainly have been, yes.
It wasn't Fannie?
Well, they were working with Fannie and Freddie.
Well, who was in charge of that?
What do you mean in charge of it?
Well, who created Fannie and Freddie? Who created Fannie and Freddie?
The bundled mortgage derivatives and all that stuff, that wasn't created by Fannie and Freddie. That idea originated in the investment banks.
I think this goes all the way back. The problem goes all the way back when Bill Clinton was president.
Stated income, things like that were...
He started it, am I right?
Pushed on the market. A lot of that was.
Yeah.
But it was followed up by...
Yeah. The Republican
presidents.
They loved it.
Sure,
they loved it too. Everybody was financing. I know one appraiser that quit the business over that here in Cleveland. He said he wasn't doing this. They kept trying to get him to change appraisals.
Listen, you were getting banks, appraisers calling lending officers and saying, how much do you need it to appraise?
Oh, I know.
Well, and it was a multifaceted thing on the housing market. It was the banks, it was the appraisers, it was the realtors, and
the buyers.
And the buyers.
Absolutely.
And the mortgage lenders created side companies. Everybody was involved.
Absolutely.
But I mean, we came within a hair of the entire financial system collapsing over how much of this undefinable risk and debt was out there in these markets.
You know,
and the idea that you would just get rid of a bunch of these restrictions that seems to me to be
Bush should have done something about it, but he was enjoying it too.
Absolutely.
He should have done something about
it. And understand, when I'm talking about how it came about, I'm not blaming Republicans or Democrats. Everybody did it. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think the response to you can certainly make the argument that the response to it was too great.
But
removing the entire response is not the smart thing to do.
Well, that's not being removed.
It started back when everybody needed to have an opportunity to have a home. That started back in Bill Clinton's era. That everybody, it didn't matter if you had the money or not. He wanted you to have a home.
Mm-hmm.
So they had all these creative ways that they made this happen. And one of them was overextending the amount of debt that somebody could get themselves into. It's amazing that they're loaning money, this much money to people.
But let's be clear about this. No bank had to make those loans. You didn't have to make a loan at 110% of value. That was a choice that was made.
Yeah, they were taking advantage of the system.
Absolutely.
The way it was set up. Where was it set up from?
Well, there was no law previously that said a bank couldn't make a loan for more than that if they chose to accept that risk. They did it. The smarter ones did not. Okay. Now, let's be fair. We've got some local banks here who, as a policy, didn't get caught up in that frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
They avoided it.
Good banking.
Well, that's right. That's right. They made but you know what? They made a decision that we're gonna focus on our long-term health and welfare instead of the extra profits we can make the next quarter. Made a big difference for them.
I want to ask you. I'm going to change the subject and ask you why you think. What is a certificate of need
for a hospital or what?
Yeah, for a hospital, medical facility. What is that?
The regulatory agencies that look over hospitals have decided that in some cases, because of primarily Medicare and Medicaid financing a lot of the healthcare services, that if you have too many of certain services in an area, that what it tends to do is to result in more of those services being utilized. So if you have too many MRI machines in a small area, what happens? You get lots more doctors recommending MRIs. So
would that be government? Would that be government interfering with business?
Well, sometimes it is, but sometimes the facilities are government-owned facilities. So.
All right. Right now, if I wanted to get an MRI, if you wanted an MRI, where would you go?
Well, your doctor would have to prescribe it.
Okay, so he tells you, I want to have an MRI. You have the option going wherever you want to have it done, don't you?
Depends on your insurance coverage. A lot of times, if you're
you got that issue too. But
healthcare provider.
If you were paying cash for it, you could go anywhere you wanted.
Right. Okay. So, I think down in Georgia they advertise an MRI for $600-700.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the MRIs around here, $1,500, $1,800, $2,000, something like that.
1,000,
Well,
most of them.
But what I guess I'm going to, Franklin, is do you not think that the hospital associations, the hospitals are part of our problem with healthcare in
Well, there's
America?
two sides to that. Certainly what you're saying is correct. Okay. Don't disagree with that. What's the other side of that, though? If you have a small hospital in a small community, all right, their pricing's probably set at a level that allows them to stay in business. Maybe you argue, well, maybe the market's not going to support it. We don't need them, but that's not how you feel in a small community. I mean, Copper Basin has lost their hospital because they couldn't compete. Right. Well, that's true. They couldn't. But now those folks are left without any choice at all. And so there's two sides to it.
Well, let's use Memorial Hospital coming up here. It's going to build a mini hospital clinic or something, a couple $1 million worth.
Well, they've already got a walk-in clinic here. They've had that for a while.
Yeah, doc in a box. That's what that's called.
right.
But they're going to have basically a minor league emergency room. In other words, if it's not critical care, not a true emergency, a place you could go for that.
So what is the problem with that? It didn't pass the certificate of need, did it? Or do we even know yet?
I don't know.
I hadn't seen the result of that yet. I don't know.
I can assure you it won't pass.
Well, but if it's just providing, the problem in emergency rooms is a lot of people go there for things other than true emergencies. And so that level of care, I'm not sure that the certificate of need will affect it any. If you're not doing critical care, things like that.
Certificate of need to me is like, it stops competition.
Well, sometimes.
I mean, do you think competition would be good in healthcare?
Yes.
Many times it would be.
Yes.
Well, why do we have certificate of needs then?
The very thing I said. You may lower some costs, but you also may result in more procedures being performed because of that competition.
If that happens, what should happen?
What do you mean?
Well, if more procedures are being performed, you're saying they're going to charge it to the government. It's the problem.
Well, that's
what should happen.
It could be your private insurance too, though. I mean, it could be extra cost for them as well. There's no question that our healthcare system is not a true free market.
Where do we go?
But it never has been.
Where do you go to negotiate? If you were the president of the United States, how would you negotiate healthcare and get the cost down? Get rid of Obamacare. Let's put it that way. Oh, wait a minute. Should we have Obamacare?
Well, it depends on whether you're
should we have social
who can
medicine?
Get insurance or not.
Should we have social medicine and everybody be insured?
Well, we have Medicare. That's social medicine.
And not everyone has an opportunity to be on Medicare.
Well, I mean, that's one proposal that's been made out there is Medicare for everybody. Everybody pays into the system. Everybody has that. Mm-hmm. What happens at that point? Well, the government is who the providers have to negotiate with on their rates.
Tell me one.
Probably holds costs down.
Tell me one system the government manages that is managed well.
What government are you talking about?
The United States government.
I would say, how many you want?
One.
Okay. I think our air traffic control system, it works pretty darn well.
Was that after they got fired?
I think it worked well beforehand, and it works well then. We don't have a lot of crashes, do we?
Okay. What else?
I would say that by and large, our regulation of the securities industry has worked pretty well. It's been relatively stable compared to most countries, wouldn't you say?
Well, we just heard we still like to talk about the Great Recession that was caused and by letting the security exchanges or not the exchanges, but the security companies and the banks merge.
But that came out as a result of deregulation.
That's right.
We took regulations off, and that's what produced that. So that goes back to what we were saying a moment ago. Shouldn't the focus be on smart regulation as opposed to just deregulation?
Well, I keep going back into the hospital business, and I want to get into that again. Mm-hmm. And you've heard me say time and time again, I don't know what we're doing with the VA hospitals.
Okay.
I don't understand that. I just don't understand why we keep hanging on to VA hospitals. Why don't we just merge them into the system and have a hospital system and give them a military VA card to go and utilize it. You have a problem with that?
I think there's some merit to the idea.
I do too.
Now, we've talked about before, the VA has some specialized needs, and maybe they should have clinics or facilities that focus on those things, traumatic brain injuries or clinics that deal with PTSD.
They've got them at Erlanger. They've got them at, there's hospitals that have this.
Steve, you made a statement a minute ago. You didn't ever see us having the certificate of need passed for the new. Why do you say that, just out of curiosity?
Well, every time I used to deal with hospitals a lot, and I used to go over to the Tennessee Hospital Association meetings, and I saw the politics that was involved in medical in hospitals. And, and I was there when hospitals were trying to buy up other hospitals, and I was there when the hospital corporation started. And next thing you know, they were taking over a lot of hospitals. It was a free type enterprise. And then all of a sudden, the hospital association started fighting against it because they didn't want any interference with the way they ran the hospitals. And, I just see a lot of bureaucracy coming out of I think, first of all, when you go into a hospital, try to find a price for something. You can't find one anywhere.
Well, not only that, you've got 52 different prices in the same hospital for the same service.
Depending on
who your insurance is with.
Exactly right. Depending on your coverage.
Okay?
That's right. And how loud you are sometimes. There's one guy in there I saw, he got his bill knocked down a whole lot by just complaining, I'm paying cash and I'm not paying that price. Next thing you know, they adjusted it for him.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
But I just think there's a whole lot of bureaucracy in the hospital industry. And the hospital industry, we need it. It's a good thing. The nurses, the doctors are a wonderful thing. But do we need the bureaucracy of non-competition? In other words, can another hospital come to Bradley County and serve us? Do we need just one?
Well, we've actually had a reduction. We had to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But
and then they merged.
Well, see,
that's competition.
That's competition. That's free enterprise. That's good. But certificate of need, that gets me, because certificate of need stops a lot of people on the borders. I think it's hard to. We'll never get to the bottom of negotiating a good health care system pricing in the system without getting the hospital associations involved, and they won't get involved in pricing.
Well, but
and insurance.
But
that's
to
all
Richard's
they want to deal
point,
with.
you're never going to have a true market-based system as long as you have private insurance involved. I mean, who determines the price that you pay? Well, I'd say Blue Cross Blue Shield has more to do with it than the hospital does.
Yeah, when they negotiate,
because they have the biggest pool of patients to send to.
Well, they negotiate the price.
Okay.
On an MRI to a Blue Cross Blue Shield deal may only cost Blue Shield $400. Who knows?
Sure.
We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But if Blue Cross gets it for $400, why can't everybody get it for $400?
Because the other people can't send as much business to them. That's the answer to your
Supply
question.
and demand.
What do you think, hospitals don't have their own insurance programs?
You know what? There's a couple of there's one I'm familiar with in Pittsburgh that's doing just that.
What do you think about Amazon?
You pay a monthly fee, and
That's
you have access to that hospital and whatever services you need there.
That's a new concept. Doctors are doing it in their offices too.
Yeah. I guess you've heard Amazon is exploring looking into healthcare insurance.
There's money in healthcare insurance.
Obviously there is. All you have to do is look at one of the wealthiest families in the state of Tennessee is the Frist family, and
they made a lot of money on hospitals.
They did quite well in the healthcare business.
All right, we got a lot more to talk about, but we need to take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, I'm the doctor.
And you're listening to WOOPLP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Another SOS, and you're stressing, and that's the time to check in. Check in to cash, check in. When you have a cash emergency, you check in. We understand the urgency. Check in to get your loans and more. You gotta check in with your checking to cash. Sure. Walk in, call in, click in, go all in. Check in to cash in, check in to cash. Your one-stop money shop. Check into cash.
This is Teresa Gilbert from the Village Bank Shop in Cleveland, Tennessee. Do you have a birthday, wedding, or anniversary coming up and want that perfect cake? Need some donuts to sweeten up your coworkers? Want to surprise your sweet thing with a bag of cookies? Then come on over to the Village Bake Shop. Family operated since 1961, the Village Bake Shop is your first and last stop for fresh baked goods that will feed your sweet tooth. The Village Bake Shop located at the Village Green Town Center. The phone number here is 423-476-5179. See you soon.
Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So, whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376.
Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee, 400-5376.
Dr. Christopher Chase, with Associates in Plastic Surgery, now offers his patients the convenience of a Cleveland office at 2350 North Ocoee Street. Dr. Chase specializes for the ladies in breast augmentation, including lifts, reconstructions, and reductions. Also, tummy tucks or mommy makeovers, and facial rejuvenation, including facelifts, eyelids, brows, nose, and he also offers Botox procedures. Check out Dr. Christopher Chase. He is certified by the American Board of Surgery, the American Board of Plastic Surgery. He's a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons and the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Check their website out at aprs.md. That's aprs.md. Call for your convenient appointment in Cleveland at 624-0021. 624-0021. 2350 North Ocoee. That's Dr. Christopher Chase.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
35 years. Think about it. March 1st, 1983. 35 years ago.
Good morning. We're back again, and we've got a caller live. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, this is John. I just wanted to see how the show was going this morning.
Boy, it's just like Franklin's got a day off, is all I can tell you.
What? You're not here, John? What?
John, I want you to know, though, I did stick up for you. I slammed him right off the bat, told him he was wrong and crazy, and MSNBC and Benghazi and all that. So I made him feel at home. I do have my Make America Great Again hat here. He is going to put it on. I do believe he wants to put that hat on really bad.
The only thing that's missing is Richard hadn't got a text from Lisa this morning.
Actually, I have, John.
Wait a minute. Go ahead, John.
Well, I want to get a picture of Franklin with that hat on.
All right.
I'll send you one. I've actually got one. I wore one at a costume party a few months ago.
I bet that was.
I want you to wear Richard.
Oh, you want me to wear Richards? Okay. All right. Are you streaming it online?
No, Lisa actually pulled it up. Actually, my mother-in-law called and wanted to know why I wasn't on the radio, so I thought I'd at least call in.
Well, things are going okay.
Well, we haven't started yet, but I'm sure it will. Now, listen, Richard, because he hadn't been on there before, has a right to just kick anything he wants to kick.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's awful calm around here this morning.
Yeah. I'm having to drink extra coffee.
Okay. Well, I will be there next week, and we'll stir it up.
We miss you.
All right.
Good luck, John.
See y'all.
See ya.
All right. I guess I could start with this. We're going to talk about some local politics, but first of all, I just want to ask, what do you think about Eric Holder slamming Jeff Sessions for comments over firing McCabe?
Well, it was curious after supposedly recusing himself from everything related to this to then do that. I thought it was unusual.
Where did the recommendation come from to fire McCabe?
Well, that's the interesting question because supposedly from the internal investigation, but unusually they have not released that investigation. They usually do in those.
Oh, it's fixing to be unleashed. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's of course this is all the FBI's comments. The OIG and all the initials that go all this, the DOJ and all that, concluded that McCabe had made an unauthorized disclosure to the news media and lacked candor, including under oath, on multiple occasions.
Well,
that used to get you fired.
There's two issues there that Richard mentioned, one of which may be substantive and one may not be. The part about the disclosures to the news media is pretty questionable. There are 3 members of the FBI who are authorized to make disclosures to the media, and he happened to be one of them. Now, the lack of candor part, though, is a serious charge in the FBI, and so that's the reason.
That's lying, isn't it?
Or not being fully truthful is the way
that's called lying.
So
I just want to make sure everybody understands what that is.
A half-truth is a lie.
But as I said, for some reason they haven't released the report.
It's fiction.
And so I think that would be appropriate to do.
Well, do you think they would have fired him if there hadn't been something there?
I think this investigation went forward at about 8 times as fast as the typical one in the FBI.
Well, like the Mueller investigation.
No.
Well, one thing that you got to remember, Comey testified to Congress that under oath that there was never leaking or any approved leak.
That's not leaking.
If he leaks it to the press,
or approved,
is that not?
Does it worry you guys at all that all these people that you're coming down on are Republicans?
It doesn't matter. A liar is a liar, Franklin. Does it not?
My question is, why do you think all these Republicans are out to get Trump and we're in the bag for Hillary? That's what y'all are suggesting.
I think they were Hillary bums. I think they were having some kind of illegal relationship.
Okay, well, if that's the case, nobody has yet answered for me the central question. Why did they release all this bad information on Hillary and keep this stuff about Trump quiet during the election, if that's the case?
What stuff have they found on Trump?
All these contacts with the Russians?
Oh.
What are you talking about?
Oh, what is it? I haven't heard any.
His son-in-law, his NSA
girl?
guy, all going to meet with him secretly?
I haven't heard all this.
Sending him emails saying, we need a back channel that nobody knows about?
I haven't heard all this stuff.
Oh, you haven't heard that? Huh?
I haven't heard it.
Then you aren't paying attention.
What proof is there?
They've testified.
CNN,
before grand
Crazy News
juries.
Network. Is this something they put out? CNN.
Well, back to the Comey deal. He was asked by at a congressional hearing if he had ever been the anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to Donald Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation, and he said never and no.
Right.
So I think it's pretty well substantiated. Mr. Comey doesn't tell the truth a lot of times. And it always tickles me about James Comey because the Democrats loved him. Oh, my gosh, he's the greatest thing ever. Then they hated him. Mm-hmm. Now they love him again.
It's not a question of loving him. I think there's plenty to criticize him about. I think the idea of firing people who are investigating you, though, ought to give everybody a little pause.
Well, let me ask you something. And
we had that experience during Watergate.
I'm not trying to say that Trump is going to fire Mueller. The only thing I'm saying, and I want to make sure I'm clear about this, what is Mueller investigating at this time?
Anything and everything he can get his hands on, not just the Russia probe.
So why does he continue to go on? I mean, has he not proved where he needs to be with Donald Trump, that there wasn't any collusion?
Haven't proved it. You don't know what he has. You have no idea.
You
what
think
he
ought to give us an update?
You think? No, wait a minute. Y'all are here criticizing somebody for talking to the media, and Mueller hasn't talked to the media at all.
I want to finish something. Do you think, out of respect, the office of the President of the United States needs to have things like this? Instead of a witch hunt being created, I have a real investigation, and let's get to the bottom of it, and let's get it over with. And if it needs to continue, wait a minute, let me finish. If it needs to continue, let him come up and say, we have found information that states that we need to go on to get to the bottom of the conclusion. He won't say that either.
Okay. 4 members of his administration have already pled guilty. Number one.
For what? For what?
Lying in the investigation.
Nothing to do with.
You don't know what they lied about.
Well, let's talk about it.
You don't know that.
You don't know it either.
I'm not claiming to know it. You're the guys wanting to shut it down before you know the information.
I'm not saying shut it down. Here's what I'm trying to say.
Let me quote.
Out of respect for the office of the President of the United States, the witch hunt the Democrats are trying to put on here, and Crazy News Network and all these other networks is absolutely crazy.
Let me quote.
And all I want to do is say, ask Mr. Mueller, he needs to come and give us a report. We need to continue to do this.
So he needs to talk to the media.
I'd like to hear him.
Not details. I don't think he should tell details.
No,
but
I think he should say. A lot of people have been interested in stopping this. Let me say, we are investigating something that could lead to collusion, and we're going to continue the investigation. And I think probably by next 60 days, we should be wrapping it up. Just out of courtesy to the office of the President of the United States or anyone else.
Let me quote that wild-eyed liberal Newt Gingrich yesterday. The president needs to stop acting like he's guilty. That's Newt Gingrich's comment yesterday.
All right. Let's talk about how many people Mueller's got on his investigating team that are Republicans.
None.
4 out of 17, actually.
4 out of 17.
Also, the person who's over the investigation, Rosenstein, a Republican. The crazy part about all this criticism is that all these people were Republicans at the top, and you think they're all corrupt.
Let me say what
you guys shouldn't be allowed to pick the people in charge.
Can I say what I really think?
What?
I think they all thought Hillary was going to win this election, and they've all got caught with their pants down.
Why did all these Republicans do that?
Because they backed, a lot of them unfortunately backed Hillary.
They were backing
the Bushes, some of those guys were.
I think they all got caught with their pants down. You know what they're trying to hide right now? They're trying to cover up Obama and Eric Holder's problems.
Agree
I
or
think
disagree?
you guys should read the statement of the military colonel analyst for Fox News who resigned this week, who said he was ashamed to be associated with them.
Who are you talking about now?
I'm trying to remember his name. He was a huge critic. He was a huge critic of Obama for the last 8 years. and his name is Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters.
And he stopped being a critic of Obama's? Is that
No. He resigned from Fox News this week because of their shameless assault on the intelligence community and the FBI, and they're propping up what the president has been doing with regard to Russia right now. He was ashamed to be associated with them.
The interesting thing this morning, and I wanted to do this for Franklin's, or really like at least halfway act intelligent, which it's an act. But I got up this morning, turned it to, I'm an early riser, so it's 4:15, so I flipped the TV on, I'm watching some news, and the 4 o'clock news on Fox was about the bomber.
Yeah.
Flipped it quickly to CNN. You know what the story was? Trump apologizes to Putin. How terrible is that? That was 15 minutes of not that he apologized.
He congratulated him for winning the election.
That's right. Not apologize. I'm sorry. My bad.
But that's part of the questions about Donald Trump. When Venezuela had a sham election about 10 months ago, he came out and issued a scathing statement against the fact that it wasn't democratic, that the United States was going to support democracies, and that it was an illegitimate government. Heck, we have videos this week of ballot boxes being stuffed in Russia, and he sends him this warm congratulatory message. Why does he do that? Why, when the Congress of the United States, with 98% of the members, Democrats and Republicans, voting for all these sanctions, why does Trump say no?
Do you think that sanctions have worked?
Yeah, in a lot of cases they have.
Russia?
Sure. Their economy's not very strong.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think Donald Trump has another way to get things done.
You hope he does, but you don't know anything.
I think do you think he's not doing a good job right now?
With what thing?
Everything. The economy? How's he doing?
How's that?
Economy's going fine right now.
Okay, is that a good job?
How's the military?
Did he make it happen, or is that
it's
an Obama
way
thing?
Overstretched. What?
Did Obama make the economy good, or has Trump done it?
I think the economy was improving every year for 7 consecutive years. What are you talking about?
Under Obama?
Sure it did.
Wait a minute. Did we just talk about the bureaucracy and banking?
Yes.
Are you going to say that the unemployment rate didn't fall all those years? Are you going to say that GDP didn't go up all those years? Are you going to say that the stock market didn't hit record levels every year, year after year? So,
wait a minute.
So far,
how did we grow? How did the economy grow? Did it grow?
Sure.
During Obama?
Sure it did.
What was it?
What do you mean?
Well, GDP. How did it do?
It went up about 2.3% on average.
John, I miss you right now.
Yeah. He would be going
well, guess what? Guess what? Trump didn't hit his 3% for his first year, did he?
Oh, he did?
He didn't.
I thought he was over 3.
No, he didn't.
3.5, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1 quarter.
3.5.
Quarter.
3.5.
3 consecutive over 3.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Check that.
Go look on your phone and look it up.
Do that right now.
Yeah, check that
Where do you find this Democratic information?
By the way, let me ask you a question. Has the United States ever interfered in any other country's election?
Yeah.
I don't know, but who cares?
How about Israel?
Whose side are you on?
I'm just saying.
Did Obama interfere in Israel?
Absolutely. No. Oh, my. He came out and said he did.
No, he didn't.
You don't think he interfered in Israel?
No.
Franklin.
A private contractor went over there and worked for it who had worked for the president. That means Obama did it?
Oh, Lord. CNN, Crazy News Network. That's all he watches, I think.
Actually, I watch all of them.
Did Obama congratulate?
I do watch Fox frequently.
Did Obama ever congratulate Putin?
Yes.
Putin.
Yes, he did.
He sure did.
He did.
Did
Democrats don't talk about that, though, do
they? Were you
they?
furious over that?
I wouldn't have been happy about it.
I didn't hear anything.
Let me ask you something.
But let's
we need to talk about some
let's be
local
clear.
politics.
Let's be clear, though. Obama wasn't under investigation for his warm, friendly ties with Putin.
He's fixing to be under investigation for everything he did, I hope.
Me too.
Y'all have had a whole year. When's it going to start?
Oh, after we get through with this Russian probe, this Russian investigation.
What's stopping the president from doing it?
The Democrats.
How are they stopping him?
The Democrats.
The Justice Department is run by Republicans now.
Hey, they can't do anything because of all this Russian investigation. Russian investigation is number one.
Y'all got one excuse after another.
Russian investigation. What happened in the Russian investigation yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah. Last month, the month before, nothing. Nothing's
Well,
happened.
we know that the president has, for now several weeks, refused to show up for interviews. We know that the president's son and son-in-law showed up and refused to answer questions.
Russian
We know
investigation.
that.
This was
Why
Russian.
is that? Why do they do that, Steve? Why do they show up and refuse to answer
We've
questions?
been doing this for 14 months, and
Because they won't answer the
proof.
questions. They're
There's no proof.
scared of it.
Wait a minute. How many times did the guy say that the girl came and wanted to talk about adoption?
It wasn't
Russian
about adoption. It
adoption.
was about lifting the sanctions.
Russian
on it.
adoption.
It was lifting
Russian
the sanctions.
adoption. Who stayed for the meeting and who left?
Kushner, Manafort were there. The lawyer was
Who
there.
left?
I don't know what you're asking.
In other words, they got up and left when they found out there wasn't anything to talk
Well,
about.
that's what they
Now, wait a
said
minute.
publicly.
Let me ask you something. If you were running for president, and let's say your dad was running for president, and you get a call from somebody that says, "Hey, I've got some scoop on Hillary that you need to know. I need to come by and talk to you about it." Would you listen?
Would I hide it?
Would you listen to it?
Probably not.
Why?
Because
you wouldn't want to.
Because
you wouldn't want to know any scoop on your opponent.
Here's what I would do. No, I would not.
But you wouldn't.
No, I would not.
Frank,
Work with
I
a
can't
foreign
believe you're so
government.
I can't believe you're so humble.
I'm not humble.
Yeah,
I
you
do
are.
have some
You're
standards.
humble. Oh, Lord.
Forbes
You're
mag.
humble.
Would you agree with me that Forbes magazine is not a liberal publication? Steve Forbes.
He's not liberal.
Okay.
Not tremendous.
First year of the Trump administration, GDP 2.3%. 2 quarters out of 4, 3% and 3.1%. That it was the second and the third. So the first and the fourth were below that for an average of 2.3%.
If you think the economy's bad, listen.
I didn't say it was bad. Nobody said that.
All right. Richard, you want to talk about some local politics?
I just thought, I know we have some interesting races going on right now. Obviously, the most interesting, I think, is the sheriff's race. And, of course, we have several county commissioners being opposed. We also have some local folks, our circuit court clerk office is up. So
we're getting another call first.
Okay.
Let's listen and see what they say.
That's why.
Go ahead, caller. Help us make America great again.
That's why we're in $20 trillion in debt, because taxpayers wasting all that money of putting up all that bull crap they're going on up there. Look all the money that they're wasting paying all these people. They're probably making $5,000 a week to do all this old bull crap. There's only 100 of them doing all that old bull crap.
100 investigation helpers.
And not nary one of them is going to be found guilty on nothing. That's just a waste of money, time, and they're missing the president up from doing his job.
Well, thanks, caller. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Now then, you heard it, Franklin. I didn't say it. They're messing the president
They're messing
up.
the president
keeping him
up.
from doing his job. All right. Talk about the local races now.
Well, we have, of course, our incumbent sheriff is facing a serious challenge from a former captain of the CID. So that's, one of the things that's obviously a hot contested race. I think it's very close, and would love to hear your guys' take on how you think it's going, maybe. Any predictions from either one?
Go ahead, Franklin. I'll give you the honor.
Oh, I think it's going to end up being a close race. I also think it's going to end up being a muddy experience.
It's already started to get muddy, and I've talked to both candidates and a lot of their supporters, and I've cautioned both candidates. I said the one that runs the dirtiest contest will lose, in my opinion, and I do believe that.
What do you think about, and I'm not saying one thing negative about any one of them, but Lawson was, last time he ran for sheriff, he ran under a Democrat party, right?
Yes.
And how did that one turn out?
He's not won as a Democrat, obviously.
Well, I mean, what was the...
it was
difference?
a narrow...
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was close. Yeah, very close.
And he was running against Ruth.
Jim Ruth.
Jim Ruth, that's
at
correct.
that time.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Who has endorsed him, by
That's
the
correct.
way.
All the living sheriffs have endorsed him. That's correct. Except for Eric Watson, obviously. Rephrase that. So I don't want to get blown up and say that.
Lawson's family had been in the legal business for years. A lot of them have, haven't they?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And
His brother and father.
His
both
brother
been
and-
sheriff.
That's correct.
So there's that where he keeps running for sheriff. So he really wants to be sheriff because his father was a past sheriff or something. Is that right?
I think he's passionate, as is Mr. Watson, about being in law enforcement. I think they're both very passionate. They both think they can do a really good job. I don't think, and I want somebody that's in office that's passionate about their job as sheriff. That's a tough job. I always say half the time you're going to make somebody mad. One side or the other is going to be mad at you. It's a tough. I would not want to be sheriff of any county, especially my home county. So,
well, what else in the local?
We have Gayla Miller, our current circuit court clerk. She's been there 3 terms, I believe that's correct. 12 years as clerk and worked there 20.
Well, she's worked there probably 30 years.
Who's running against her?
Jeff Young. I'm sorry, I pulled Steve. I went with Jeff Young is running against her. He's I believe was a former
EMS director.
That's right, EMS director. That's correct. So that's a contested race.
The debate that been had was just on the sheriff's race.
That's correct.
Else.
Yeah,
Is there going to be any other debates?
The sheriffs are actually speaking. It's around the 22nd or 23rd at the Noonday Rotary Club on that Tuesday, and I don't have a calendar in front of me. I think that's around the date there. I think they're going to be speaking. I'm not sure if it's a debate format or not. I'm not sure of any other sheriff debates that are coming up. And we do have the Republican Party is hosting a commissioner debate on the April 16th at Pangle Hall for the county commissioners that are opposed that want to participate. We're getting all that finalized right now.
So this is for county commission?
Yes, that's correct, for the county commission. Mm-hmm. We also have an interesting mayor's race, the city mayor race coming up with
city council races too.
Yeah, city council races. That's right. So we've got lots of good politics right now, and of course,
did the liquor store referendum, is it going to be on the ballot?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. Is it?
I thought it was.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was.
Okay,
too.
I'm not sure.
That's so.
Okay. That shows I missed that. Sorry.
I was thinking it was going to be on the ballot this year to put liquor stores in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many there'd be, probably 2 or 3 in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think that's a debated issue quite a bit. I think that's when Cleveland went to liquor by the drink.
Well, everybody was against it, and it finally passed, and everything went pretty smooth after that.
Yes, it has. Yeah, John. There's lots of things I'd like to say on behalf of John. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want, but no.
Yeah.
Legalize marijuana. I did hear that yesterday at the state capitol.
Oh, they're talking about it over there?
Yeah, medical marijuana is one of the things that were brought up in the cannabis oil deal.
The liquor store referendum's on the November ballot.
Okay, that's right.
A loyal listener just sent that information in.
I didn't think it was on the May, but I was. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, because I was going to say, I looked at the May ballot and don't remember it, but.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think out of all the races, probably the biggest one's the sheriff race. Of course, that's the biggest budget and the biggest opportunity for someone to run a big government branch. So, how big's the budget now for the sheriff's department? Do you have any idea? Several million. Isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't know that, Steve. That's a good question. I don't know. I think that's one of the things that both me and ought to answer. How they're going to control.
Well, let me ask you this: under the school systems and trying to protect the schools right now, what's going to happen from the sheriff's department side of it, and the city, I guess, law enforcement? What's going to happen as far as them getting involved to help protect the schools?
Well, I think the state addressed that yesterday when they passed some security measures, some money or funds for continuing SROs with matching funds from each county and city. I think both the city and county have committed to continuing SRO.
Most of our schools have SROs.
Yeah, I think all of them do.
I think we do. That was one of the big points of contention in that is all the rural areas out there that don't have those. Our loyal listener sent in some more information to answer your question a minute ago. The sheriff's budget is $15.2 million.
Okay. That's a huge budget for somebody to manage.
See, people who know or listening to Backfire.
Let me ask you something. $15 million. And we have someone that runs for sheriff that has to be certified. I've been in the legal business for a long time.
It's not a big deal to get post certification.
Well, you say that, but it really is. What all is involved in? What's involved in being eligible to run for sheriff?
Well, like Franklin said, you got
to have a high school education.
Okay, that's one.
You got to pass a background check.
Okay.
You got to have a mental fitness evaluation,
Right.
and you have to so many years in law enforcement.
There's
but it's
where
not
I'm
a
going.
huge. It's like 4 years. It's not a lot.
Well, why do they have to have 4 years in law enforcement?
Well,
to be
presumably because
you're running a $15 million
but that's
budget.
not all you're doing.
I'd rather have a business degree.
Well,
somebody with a business
You're
degree.
instructing people on enforcement of criminal laws. You got to know what you're doing.
You don't think that they have someone by their side that could do that?
Well, if you want to divide it up and just make it into an administrative
In other
role
words,
and take law enforcement and put it under that, that would be one thing. But I doubt you'll get any sheriff's candidates to go along with that.
Do you think Donald Trump would do a good job of running the sheriff's department?
Well, I think based upon current history, we would have a 122% turnover in personnel the first 6 months.
Well, he'd get down and get some good ones in there.
Weed them out.
Weed them out. Let the weak ones fall, Franklin. That's the way this works. Let the weak ones fall.
That's a great point.
But I mean, really and truly, I'm sitting here. I've thought about this for years. You know, we've got these $15 million budgets, and we've got somebody that goes in and heads these departments up. That, you know, I'm not criticizing anybody, but there's other people that could manage the money and handle it and run the department.
You're making an argument at this point for the idea of a city manager versus a mayor running things. Because you're hiring people based upon strictly qualifications at that point rather than political appeal. That's what you're saying.
I don't think you have to have a degree in putting handcuffs on to be able to be sheriff.
I'm saying you're making an argument for hiring people to do the administration based upon their education and training.
I think they're already there. I think you promote them within. You deal with it. You go in there and you see what you got and you make it happen. Aren't
you saying you should get the best qualified person, though?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Do you think the best is somebody that had never had any ability to manage money?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're suggesting that you open it up and you search for people who have that experience. Right?
I say that there ought to be 5 people running for sheriff right now instead of 2. And I think if you got rid of that barrier, you'd have some better candidates. Or let me say that, good candidates that would run. And he'd give you a different viewpoint looking at it. You got a $15 million budget. At one time, there was a big issue about the cars, that nobody was trading them in, and they had these old cars and had to have all these new cars. Well, come find out they weren't trading them in. You know.
Well, each sheriff's office does have a financial administrator, director.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly.
I understand how to handle.
But that's their job, and of course, but he is the chief law enforcement officer
by the elected sheriff.
That's right.
Whoop FM would like to announce that Steve Hickson is now a candidate for sheriff. Steve Hickson, 2018.
Not either.
Too late to file.
Anyway, we're running late. Franklin's looking at the clock. We've had a nice, calm day. Franklin, you've had a day off today, I believe. Here, would you put the hat on before we leave? Just put the hat on for a minute.
Just for John.
Just for John, but if this shows up on the Republican page, I'm going to be in trouble with it. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay, here we go.
And now we're getting the picture made.
Okay. Hello, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
There'll be another investigation.
That's right. The banner, everybody. That's exactly right.
There will be.
So thank you for letting me sit in for John.
I've
enjoyed it, and Richard, come back and visit us again.
Come back more often, and maybe we can get something like DACA fixed or something.
And let me congratulate some people today.
Right.
The FBI, in response to the bombing in Texas, immediately within 3 days mobilized a task force of 350 agents and put them on the ground there immediately to support the local law enforcement. And that's really what the FBI does most of the time.
Yeah.
And
I think the FBI is doing a great job, except they had some top problems.
Yeah.
Well,
and I got
those decisions were made by those people at the top.
And I've got a heart for law enforcement since I have a son that's a city police officer here in town. So I always pro law enforcement. So.
All right.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
guys.
we'll see you next week, and John will be back. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry,